5 tips for dealing with fat phobia, or the fear of going through a gaining phase and putting on some fat. And I think that for myself personally and for clients, it's much more common to have a harder time gaining than cutting. And I think it revolves around this kind of fear of gaining fat. And I think that it can be especially difficult for people who maybe don't have the best body fat distribution, maybe people who used to be a little bit more overweight in the past, like myself, or honestly for anybody, because I have clients that by anybody's standards, pretty freaking jacked, and they still have a hard time going through gaining phases. And I think that people that maybe don't have a ton of muscle mass already struggle going through gaining phases as well, because the more muscle you have, the better, higher body fat percentages are probably going to look. So when you're starting out, you really might have to kind of close your eyes and get through those first couple gaining phases, and it can be very challenging. So 5 things that you can do to kind of help with this. And the first thing, for me anyways, is remembering that no one probably gives a shit if you gain 10 to 15 pounds. And an example that, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but Gary Vee. Yeah, I listen to his stuff every once in a while just because his energy is just, I like it. So one thing that he talks about was like a week after Prince died, like no one was really talking about it. No one seemed to really give a shit a whole lot. Now, that's not to say that his close family and stuff like that didn't care, or his diehard fans didn't, but I think it just is a good example that people got their own shit going on. And just because you gain 10 to 15 pounds over the course of however many months, several months, people got their own stuff to worry about rather than worrying about if I wonder if he's gained a little bit there. And the people that really worry about that probably aren't the best people to surround yourself with anyways. So the first tip is realizing that no one really gives a shit. And the second one is try to do less kind of body checking. So as I mentioned earlier, kind of closing your eyes and getting through the first couple gaining phases, probably not the worst idea to do less body checking. So this is probably going to be things like maybe weighing yourself less frequently, although there's pros and cons to that, because if you weigh yourself less frequently and you do it like once a week and you just happen to weigh yourself on a day where your weight was fluctuating up anyways, then it can be challenging. So I'm not so sure about that one, but I definitely think checking yourself out less in the mirror can be helpful. I definitely think that doing less body checking in terms of like pinching your stomach fat, I don't know where this came from, but I got in a super habit of pinching like my abdominal fat right there. Just I don't know. I think it comes from probably using body fat calipers in the past to estimate my body fat. So I'm always just self-checking that. And I got in a really bad habit of doing that and always checking my abs in the morning and stuff like that. And I think that doing that through a gaining phase is a good way to make yourself want to turn around and not want to continue. And tip number 3 is to focus on some sort of performance goals. So setting realistic performance goals and saying, hey, I'm going to hit this goal before I cut back down, or else I'm not going through a cutting phase. And for me, when I basically went from like low 150s to upper 180s. So I put on a lot of weight. And, you know, during that phase, I probably put on 15 pounds of muscle. Like, it was definitely the most successful bodybuilding phase I've had. And one thing I did during that phase that really helped me out was when I hit like 170, my weight definitely started some of my numbers on some lifts that I actually care about started increasing, in particular the bench press. And I really wanted to hit at least 225 for 7 reps before I started cutting. And I made sure not to turn around until I hit that goal. So I think that focusing more so on performance and setting specific performance goals is a good idea. And tip number 4 here is kind of, not to get like too woo-woo here, but making peace with kind of the worst case scenario. So let's say worst case scenario, over the course of 3 to 5 months, you put on 10 pounds and it is all fat, literally all fat. Well, in that kind of worst case scenario, I mean, what do? Cut for 2 months and take pretty much all of that fat off? So like, it's not that difficult to clean up some damage if it happens. So I think that kind of accepting the reality of, hey, worst case scenario, I just go through a couple months of cutting and I'm kind of right back to where I was. All right. And the 5th tip is, and I've got a bonus tip after this that I just remembered I want to talk about, but the 5th tip is focusing on the life benefits of going through gaining phases and how much more flexibility you can have with your diet, opening up your flexible life and really turning your focus on enjoying some other things in your life than, the whole bodybuilding game. And as much as I love fitness and that sort of thing, there's some other cool shit in life as well. All right. So focusing on those other things, the other benefits of a gaining phase can be beneficial. And kind of a bonus tip here is just take it slow. Like, there's not a ton of research on the best rates of gaining that give you a good proportion of muscle to fat. But right now, it seems that gaining around 1% of your body weight per month provides a pretty good proportion of fat to muscle. And man, for someone that's like 170, 180 pounds, what's that, close to 2 pounds a month? All right, gain for 5 months and then you're up 10 pounds. Like, take it slow. You don't have to go crazy with it, and just try to accept that, hey, for my long-term goals, where's that muscle going to come from if I don't put on mass? So understanding that, hey, for my long-term goals, this is what I'm going to do, and over the long term, I'm going to look better. But right now, I'm going to take it slow and go through it. So to reiterate the kind of tips here, realize that no one probably gives a shit. Try to do less kind of self-checking. Try to set performance goals. Remember that you're always one cut away from reducing a lot of fat. Focus on some of the good social aspects of going through a gaining phase. And number 6, take it slow. You don't need to rush things. Take it nice and easy, and you should be all right? So hopefully this helps you out. I know it's tough. It can definitely be hard going through a gaining phase, but I hope this helps, all right? I'll see you next Sunday.